Hi everyone, it's Monday, a beautiful morning. We're starting the week with filming, and today we're continuing our mini-series miniFLIPs. We have 3 destinations ahead of us, and we'll share some interesting tidbits about miniFLIPs. All 3 purchases and sales will be very interesting. So come take a look at what I bought here. Lower Chabri 2, 557. 1/20th share of an apparently worthless plot of land in the middle of arable fields, about 200 meters in this direction. It's on a slope and there's a landfill nearby. I bought 1/20th share for 85,000 crowns and I sold it for 250,000 crowns. And it really was a very minor share. I would never have valued it at 250,000 crowns, but that was the price in the ad. Yeah, and I want to say that even if you're buying seemingly worthless land, you should always try to put it on the internet. You never know who might see some kind of potential in it. Yeah, a farmer could have bought it. Someone could have bought it thinking the landfill would be expanded. Anyone could have bought it who thought there might be a change in the zoning plan, that something would be built here and so on and so forth. For me, it was a seemingly worthless plot because owning 1/20th of a square-shaped property without an access road in Dolní Chabri, where even if the zoning plan changed, everything is far away. Everything is far from the utilities. I can't imagine that an access road would ever be built there. Yeah, it's simply a plot of land that, for me, didn't really have any value. But on reality, an investor could find it for whom it would have value. Whether that's because they want to consolidate the land, or they want to hold on to it for some reason, or they just see potential in it that I don't. That's why you should always keep in mind that there are investors who aren't buying just to quickly flip it, but are buying to hold on to a commodity long term because they see it as a suitable investment. So definitely don't underestimate even these small minority shares, whether it's arable land, other types of land, gardens, whatever. Yes, it's not far from Prague, but for me, that plot of land wasn't worth more than 250,000. That means a purchase at 85, sale at 250,000. That's what flipping is about. So buy land, arable land, anything, every inch, every small share. And it's for just a few crowns. And now we're continuing to the next destination, Machachkova Street 340, Radotín. Hopefully I'll manage to get there in this traffic in a reasonable time. Then come take a look at what I bought there. Such a crazy drive across all of Prague. Nevertheless, we've arrived at Machachkova Street, where I had a successful flip, actually a so-called double flip, because I flipped it into mentoring and the mentee flipped it further. So let's take a look at which house it is. Machachkova Street 340. It should be one half of a semi-detached house. Here I bought 1/4 for 500,000 crowns. It was actually about a year and a half ago when I then offered that 1/4 in the mentoring program. Yeah, the other 3/4 are owned by a co-owner. I think there's still some kind of court case regarding the settlement. One of my mentees bought it from me, greetings to Roman, for 1 million crowns. That means I made a 100% profit right away, with the understanding that he'll wait a year and then sell it for 1,900,000, 2,100,000, something like that. Yeah, again, we're in Prague, in Radotín, nice garden, and the house is in its original condition. The mentee who bought it from me for 1 million, but then he came to me saying he had some concerns and so on, that it's just a share and he's worried that his million will just be tied up in it. He asked if I had any ideas about what to do with it. Of course, I knew that it had huge potential and that the value could be somewhere around 1.8 to 2.2 million, you know. So I offered it further within the mentoring group, and another mentee who was extremely enthusiastic about it bought it from the first mentee who had bought it from me for 1 million for 1,450,000 crowns. That means one mentee made 450,000 right away, and the next one who bought it, shout out to Pecha, well, he told me that he believes he'll make another 1 million crowns on it. Yeah, that means a double flip. I made 500, another mentee made 450, and another mentee could make another, say, 500,000 on it, yeah. So that's also what flipping is about. Again, it's Prague, it's a quarter share, it's not some tiny minority stake, yeah, but with 500,000 you can already buy a quarter of a house in Prague. The house is in its original condition, it comes with a garden, and there's also an entrance, yeah. The street is quiet, yeah, it's a nice place, good accessibility. And whenever you're out in the field, I never forget to look around at the neighboring plots, at the neighboring houses to see what it looks like, you know. This is a semi-detached house, and I noticed that people are actually living in the other half. So there's no space to buy an additional share or to purchase the whole property. But when I looked around, right across the street, there's a typical property that's perfect for ringing the doorbell or leaving a letter and so on and so forth, because it's what you'd call neglected. Yeah, we can go take a look at it. For example, this is a typical house, you know, unkempt, the garden is overgrown, in bad condition, and it almost looks like nobody lives there, right? Dirty curtains, no smoke coming from the chimney. Yeah, let's take a look in the mailbox too. Well, the mailbox is empty, and it's strange that there's a garbage bin here. Yeah, so here I'd say it's about 70-30 that someone lives here or doesn't, right? However, when I see a property like this, I either ring the bell, try to make contact in some way, or I send a letter. Hello, I'm an investor and I'm interested in buying your property. And then you can buy such a property for next to nothing, because obviously if no one is taking care of it, if it's in bad condition, then the owner doesn't really have any attachment to it or any particular plans for it. And then when you buy a property like this, you can renovate it and sell it for a huge profit. And that's what flipping is all about. And keep your eyes open when you're out and about, because you never know what kind of treasure you might find. So, Machachkova Street, 500,000 to buy, 1 million to sell. And for this house, we'll write a letter to see if they might want to sell it to us. Maybe for 1 million. All right, let's keep going. We're heading to Stodulky. Beautiful. Today would be a good day for it. The sun is shining and we're at Stodulky 1141, property number LV. Here we'll talk a bit about this flip, whether it was successful or not. There was a nice profit, but I have a bit of a bitter aftertaste because I probably didn't do the right thing. So let's take a look at what happened here. It was a plot of land under this school in Stodulky, where on property number LV 1141 there were many co-owners, and I started buying up 1/4 from several of the co-owners. Yes, there was even an insufficiently identified owner involved. It was more complicated, and in fact there was a building standing on that land which hadn't been officially approved. Yeah, it wasn't registered there. It was probably approved, but it wasn't explicitly recorded in the property register. I owned that land and bought it for 120,000 crowns for all the shares. I owned it for about a year, and then some investors contacted me saying they wanted to buy it from me. Yeah, they offered me 120 for the purchase, 350 for the sale within 1 year. Awesome, great, cash register goes cha-ching. So I sold it to them, but then I started to get interested in what they actually had up their sleeve with it. According to the information I have now, you can go through just fine, no problem. You know that's true, right? At most you'll end up on TV. And in the end I found out that actually that 1/4 should now be flipped in the city district. Get this, for 7 million crowns. Yeah, yes, nothing is certain. It's just hearsay that it should be sold for that amount, that 1/4. Yeah, so that means if I had held on to it, I would have made a huge profit like that. These are the potentials from various plots of land where someone thinks it has no value at all or something like that. Here, actually, I might regret it or I might not, because I didn't have to sell it for that price. You know, I didn't have to sell it for that price, for those 7 million, because they probably managed to arrange it at the city office. It has to go through some kind of approval process. It has to be appraised. There has to be an expert opinion, you know? So of course I wish them profit, you know? They even called me afterwards and said they'd invite me to lunch. You see, sometimes you just can't uncover the final price yourself. Yeah, you know, buy for 120, sell for 350. Someone might say that's great, but if it ends up selling for 7 million now, of course, that's a bit disappointing, you know? Nevertheless, always wish everyone well, let everyone make a profit, because when everyone is satisfied, it's what's called a win-win situation, right? Of course, I would have been happier if I had sold it for 2 or 3 million and they made 4 on it. But cases like this just happen sometimes. There are quite a few such cases. Every year there are, let's say, several dozen, maybe a few dozen, right? So sometimes it's a good strategy to really try to analyze it as much as possible, to devote as much attention as you can to that plot of land. With the volume I have, since I own thousands of shares and properties, sometimes I just go for a quicker profit. And this kind of thing can happen, you know. If you have fewer shares, if your portfolio isn't that large, try to focus on it, because you can always find a creative solution. Just like we discussed creative solutions in the previous episode, where there were those ALSA and PPL boxes and so on, and the land was appreciated in value, the same applies here. Even in this case, it can really happen that it gets sold for 7 million. Now this just occurred to me, I have half a plot in Degevis, and it's almost a similar case. It's in a gardening area. I bought it for, I think, 2.5 million. Now they're offering me 4 for it, but it has the potential to go for maybe 10 or 12, which the city district could pay for it. First of all, no one knows if the city district will actually want it. You don't know how much the expert appraisal will cost. And there's also the matter of time, right? That means it could take several years. I remember, for example, that the lady sold it to me because they kept promising her, and for several years nothing happened, right? That means it could all be wrapped up within a year. Expert appraisal, approval, payout, and so on. But it could also take another 5 years with an uncertain outcome, you know? So it's really about analysis. You should always analyze it for yourself. What is the best option for you? I have a small portfolio and a large portfolio. I want the money right away or in a few years. And that's also what the prices reflect, right? Some people want to get rid of it for a few tens of thousands, for 120,000, you know, some for 350, and some can squeeze 7 million crowns out of it. So here, someone buys for 120, sells for 350, and the next person sells it for 7 million crowns. That's what flipping is about too. And with this one sad yet cheerful flip, we're ending today's video. As you can see, you can flip even with a small amount of capital. You can flip big properties, you can flip in Prague. Don't despair, read my book, subscribe, give likes, buy courses, and look forward to March. We have plenty of content for you, and you can definitely look forward to the final episode of the miniFLIPs mini-series, which is coming up next. So take care and keep flipping with me. Bye.